Last week we read about fate, a general statement about fate for all of us human beings, no? From line 751 down to line 810. And now he's going to return to the particular problem that's involved in this story, the fate of Shraddhavan, the fate of Savitri. And some of the lines that we're going to read today are among the last lines that Sri Aurobindo added to this poem in November 1950. I'll point out the lines when we come to them. So I'm going to start reading at line 811. In vain thou mourn'st that Shraddhavan must die. His death is a beginning of greater life. Death is the spirit's opportunity. A vast intention has brought two souls close, and love and death conspire towards one great end. For out of danger and pain, heaven bliss shall come, time's unforeseen event, God's secret plan. This world was not built with random bricks of chance. A blind God is not destiny's architect. A conscious power has drawn the plan of life. There is a meaning in each curve and line. It is an architecture high and grand, by many named and nameless masons built, in which unseeing hands obey the unseen. And of its master builders, she is one. Queen, strive no more to change the secret will. Time's accidents are steps in its vast scheme. Bring not thy brief and helpless human tears across the fathomless moments of a heart that knows its single will and God's as one. It can embrace its hostile destiny. It sits apart with grief and facing death, affronting adverse fate, armed and alone. In this enormous world, standing apart in the mightiness of her silent spirit's will, in the passion of her soul of sacrifice, her lonely strength facing the universe, affronting fate, asks not man's help nor God's. Sometimes one life is charged with earth's destiny. It cries not for succor from the time-bound powers. Alone she is equal to her mighty task. Intervene not in a strife too great for thee, a struggle too deep for mortal thought to sound. Its question to this nature's rigid bounds, when the soul fronts, nude of garbs, the infinite. Its too vast theme of a lonely mortal will pacing the silence of eternity. As a star, uncompanioned, moves in heaven, unastonished by the immensities of space, traveling infinity by its own light, the great are strongest when they stand alone. A God-given might of being is their force, a ray from self-solitude of light, the guide. The soul that can live alone with itself meets God. Its lonely universe is their rendezvous. I'm going to pause there. The lines from 826, Queen, strive no more to change the secret will, up to the end of the section. Leave her to her mighty self and fate. These are the last words that Sri Aurobindo dictated in the middle of November 1950. You'll start, Rosa?
In vain thou knowest that Shraddhavan must die. His death is the beginning of greater life. Death is the spirit's opportunity.
So he says there's no sense, there's no meaning in this unhappiness about the death of Shraddhavan. His death, he says, is the beginning of a greater life. Death is the spirit's opportunity. I don't think I really have to explain these words. To mourn is to be sorry, to be sad, particularly when somebody dies, no? These words may have two meanings. They may have a general meaning that perhaps for all of us, death is the beginning of a greater life. When we leave the material world, we can move into higher possibilities of ourselves. So death is the spirit's opportunity to make a big step forward in its journey. But behind this, we may think about the meaning, particularly of Shraddhavan's death. which is referred to in the next sentence. This coming together of love and death is going to mean a big forward step for the whole earth.
Vast intention has brought two souls close, and love and death conspire towards one great end. For out of danger and pain, heaven bliss shall come. Time's unforeseen event, God's secret plan.
Yeah, here he's hinting at the real significance of the story of Shraddhavan and Savitri. A vast intention has brought these two souls close. So there's a meaning in why Shraddhavan and Savitri have met, and there's a meaning also in why he is destined to die. And he says this love that they feel for each other and this death of Shraddhavan, they are conspiring, they are working together towards one great end, one very, very momentous purpose, one particular aim. No? Because out of this danger and pain, heaven bliss shall come. Something wonderful is going to come out of this conjunction of love and death. Time's unforeseen event, something completely unexpected, is going to change the course of time. This is part of God's secret plan, which he doesn't reveal to anybody until the right time comes. But in general, Narad gives this assurance. You'll read, Alice, please.
This world was not built with random bricks of chance. A blind God is not destiny's architect. A conscious power has drawn the plan of life. There is a meaning in each curve and line.
Yes. So this world hasn't been built just by chance. The materialists tend to tell us that it's all random and it's all an accident. But one who has a deeper vision can say, this world has not been built with random bricks of chance. It's not the architect of destiny, of fate, of the way things are supposed to work out. This is not a blind God, a God without any power of vision or understanding. A conscious power has drawn the plan of life. An architect makes a plan, no? And then the building has to be built on that plan. So this is a conscious power who is the architect, who has drawn the plan of life. And so there is a meaning in every little thing that happens, in every curve and line. Sergei.
It is an architecture high and broad, by many named and nameless masons being, in which unseen hands obey the unseen, and of its master builders she is one.
Yes. So this world is a marvelous architecture, high and grand, and it's being built all the time by many, many masons. Many, many beings are helping to build this world. Some of them are named, we know their names, and many of them are nameless. But they are all masons working on building this great high architecture of the world. And as they build, unseeing hands, sometimes those masons don't know what they are doing. but they are obeying the impulse of something unseen. They are being guided in their work. And of its master builders, she, Savitri, is one. She's one of the most important of these beings who is shaping and building the world. Leila.
Queen, try no more to change the secret world. Time's accidents are steps in this vast scheme. Bring not thy grief and helpless human tears across the fathomless moments of the heart that knows its single will and God's as one. It can embrace his hostile destiny. It sits apart with grief and facing death, affronting adverse fate, armed and alone.
Yes. So he addresses Savitri's mother, Queen. Don't go on trying to change the secret will, the vast intention which has brought these two souls close, which is, don't try to make Savitri change her mind. In any case, she will not. No? The secret will, he says, it has a vast scheme, and all the accidents, the apparent accidents of time, are essential steps in that vast scheme. So don't bring your helpless human tears, which anyway are brief, they won't last long. Don't bring this in the way of these fathomless moments of a heart that knows its single will and God's as one. This is what we saw at the end of Canto 1 of Book 6, where Savitri said, my will, it's not just, what are the words that she says? She says, my will is God. My will is part of the eternal will, she says. So she knows that her will and God's are one. And now she's facing this very difficult ordeal. So don't try to interfere here. Don't try to come in the way with all your transient human feelings. And he speaks of Savitri's heart. He says it can embrace its hostile destiny. It can accept it and welcome it, this apparently adverse fate. It's strong enough not to need any help or support. It sits apart, separate, with grief, facing death, affronting, squarely facing adverse fate, armed and alone. She has the strength to face this all alone. Ganga Lakshmi.
In this enormous world standing apart, in the mildness of her silent spirit's will, in the passion of her soul of sacrifice, her lonely strength facing the universe. Affronting fate asks not man's help nor words. Sometime one life is charged with Earth's destiny. Cry not for the succor from the time-bound hour.
Yes. So he says she's standing apart. She seems to be a little figure in this enormous world, but she has this power, this mightiness of her silent spirit's will. She has this intensity of her soul which is dedicated to sacrifice. She is not living for herself. She's come to earth with a mission. She's ready to do everything that's necessary for the fulfillment of this mission. She's aware, or her soul is aware, her spirit is aware, that in her she's standing all alone against all the laws and powers of the universe. She's affronting fate, she's facing it squarely, and she doesn't need to ask for help from any human being or even from the divine or any divine power. And Narad says sometimes it happens like that, that one single human life is charged with Earth's destiny. It has to carry the full responsibility for the future of the whole planet and everything on it. And when that happens, that being does not ask for succor. It doesn't ask for help from any of the powers that are limited by time. Succor is help. Joanna.
Alone she is equal to her mighty task. Intervene not in a strife too great for thee, a struggle too deep for mortal thought to sound its question to this nature's rigid bounds. When the soul fronts nude of guards the infinite, its too vast team of a lonely mortal way, pacing the silence of eternity.
Yes. So first he says she is equal, she is strong enough, she's the one, she's equal to her task, she can do what she has come to do, all alone. So he repeats to the queen, don't intervene, don't interfere in this strife, in this struggle, which is something too great for you. You cannot do it. This is the struggle that Savitri is facing or is going to have to face, is too deep for mortal thought to sound. Sounding means finding out how deep something is. It's what sailors do. Nowadays, I suppose they do it with radar or some electronic devices. But what they used to do was to tie a weight on a rope and let it down until they could feel that it has touched the bottom. And the rope would be measured in fathoms. So that's what a fathom is. It's a unit for measuring how deep something is. So we've often come across this word fathomless. It's so deep, it can't be sounded, can't be measured how deep it is. So this struggle is too deep for mortal thought, for human thought, to be able to get to the bottom of it. its question, the question which this strife, this issue is posing. It's a question to nature, testing the limits of nature. How strong are they? How strong can nature be when the soul, completely naked, without any covering, nude of garbs, faces the infinite? And this issue is also a theme, he says, which is too vast for you, Queen. You can't grasp this theme about the way in which one human will, a lonely mortal will, is moving and measuring the silence of eternity. When Sri Aurobindo was preparing to leave his body, Nirodbaran, one of his close attendants, asked him why he's not using his spiritual power to cure himself, as he had seen him do on so many other occasions. And he answered, "Can't say, you wouldn't understand." So it's like this, it's too deep for mortal thought to sound. Samatha, a very beautiful sentence for you to read.
There's a star, unaccompanied, moves in heaven, unastonished by the immensities of space, traveling infinity by its own light, the great are strongest when they stand alone.
This is something, no? Often in our human weakness we feel that we need support from others, but the really great souls are strongest when they stand alone, when they don't have and don't need any help. Then it's like a star, a lonely star without any companion. It moves about in the vast spaces, no? It's not troubled, astonished by the immensities of space. It's traveling infinity, guided only by its own light. So the great souls are like that. They are strongest when they stand alone. Dhanalakshmi.
A God-given height of being is their force, a ray from self-solitude of life, the guide. The soul that can live alone with itself needs God. Its lonely universe is their
Rendezvous. The great are strongest when they stand alone, because they have a strength, a force which has been given to them by God, a God-given might of being. They are strong just in themselves, in their very existence. They've been given this strength. And they are guided by a ray of light that comes to them from self's solitude, being alone, that can put us in touch with some higher light from our higher self. The soul that is able to live alone with itself without depending on any other soul or any other kind of help and support meets God. That lonely universe in which it lives, that soul that can live alone with itself, is their meeting place, a rendezvous. It's a French word meaning, it means turn up, be there. No? So a rendezvous. It's a time and a place when an arrangement is made to meet. Mahalingam.
The day may come when she must stand unhelped on a dangerous brink of the world's doom and rest, carrying the world's future on her lonely breast, carrying the human hope in a heart with soul, to conquer or fail and a last desperate wed, alone in death and close to extinction age.
So this is what Narad is saying about Savitri. That a day may come when she must stand without any help on this dangerous brink, on the edge of something. On a narrow edge, if you take one step over, then some catastrophe may happen. It's on this brink, on the very edge of the world's doom, a disaster for the world and for herself. And she's the one who is carrying the world's future in her lonely breast, in her heart and her soul. Carrying the whole hope for humanity in her heart, her human heart, that's left alone after Shraddhavan dies. No? She will have to conquer, or she may fail on that last desperate verge. Verge is like a brink, an edge, no? When she stands alone with death and close to the edge of extinction, to the edge of ceasing to be, not only she herself, but everything. Bom. Yes. So her single greatness, she alone, in that last dire, terrible scene, she must cross alone this perilous, dangerous, narrow bridge in time and reach this high peak. The apex is the highest point of world destiny. And there, everything can be won or everything can be lost. This Sri Aurobindo told us at the very beginning, no? Where this play of the issue, where she must take the risk and try to win, or she may lose everything. And this is not for herself, this is for humanity. Gomsu.
In the tremendous silence long and lost, over the silent hour in the world's faith, in a soul's climbing, beyond the mortal time, when she stands so with death or so with God. For part to open a silent this great link, alone with herself and death and destiny, as unsung grows between time and timelessness, when being must end or life revealed its face. Alone she must conquer, or alone must fall.
Yes. So Sri Aurobindo's really emphasizing this crucialness of what will happen and how she must face it all alone. No? in that tremendous silence, lone and lost, all alone. This hour, this moment of a deciding hour in the world's fate. Something is going to be decided for the future. Then her soul will have to climb beyond time, beyond human time. And she will have to reach a place where she stands alone with death, or perhaps alone with God. But anyway, alone, apart, on that silent, desperate brink, on that dangerous edge where everything depends on it. Alone with herself and death and destiny, as on some verge. Again, it's this borderline between time and timelessness. When being must end, it must become extinct, or else life must completely rebuild its base. There must be a complete turnaround. No? Alone she must conquer, or alone must fall. Either she will become the victor, or she will be the vanquished. She will fall.
So Narad is not telling them that she's going to win.
He says nobody can tell whether she's going to win. It's that was on a couple of pages back. It says, what else shall be is written in her soul, but till the hour reveals the fateful script, until it comes to that moment, the writing can't be read. He cannot read it. It is mute. It can't give its message. Only when that moment comes will we find out what is written there.
But actually, the divine knows, the Narad, no? He is this foreseer. He could say, but he is not here telling that.
No, he has foretold a lot, but he says, this I cannot see. The writing is illegible and mute. I can't see. And that is why he says that it may happen like this. And we feel that, Sri Aurobindo knew that he decided that this was the last words that he is writing. He's going to leave. He doesn't know how it's going to work out. And it's as if he's writing about the mother. She will have to stand alone, and she will have to carry the whole load, and nobody can say how it will work out in the end. He himself could not be sure. No? So that is why these words are very, very poignant and powerful. No? So you can read, Bhavana.
No human aid can reach her in that hour. No armed God stands shining at her side. Cry not to heaven, for she alone can save.
Next lines. Yeah.
For this the silent force came visioned down. In her the conscious will took human shape. She only can save herself and save the world.
So now this is the most that Narad is revealing about Savitri. No? He says no human aid can reach her, nobody can get near her in that hour. No? And no armored God stands shining at her side to help her. No? He says it's no use crying to heaven, to the higher realms, because she's the only one who has the power. She has to do it alone. And she came down for this. this silent force came missioned down as a result of Asvapati's prayer to the Supreme Divine Mother. This silent force which is in Savitri was sent down in her, in Savitri. The conscious will of the Supreme took a human shape. She only can save herself and save the world. She's been sent down to save, but still the outcome is not certain. Bhavan.
Oh, Queen, stand back from that stupendous seal. I'm not between her and her hour of fate. Her hour must come, and none can intervene. Seem not to train her on her heaven-sent task. Strive not to save her from her own high will.
Thank you. So it's a repetition. Oh, Queen, stand back. Oh, don't intervene. This is such a stupendous scene, such an amazing event. Don't come between her. Don't present any obstacle to her and this fate that she has to face. Her hour must come, and no one can come in between. Don't think that you can persuade her to give up that heaven-sent task, that mission that she's been given. And don't strive, don't struggle to save her from what is, after all, her own will that she should do this thing. Suresh.
Thou hast no place in that tremendous state. Thy love and longing are not arbiters there. Leave the words fed and that to God's soul God.
So he says, you don't have any place there in that tremendous strife. And you feel human love for her, and you feel human longing, but they have no power there. They can't decide anything. Arbiters are people who have authority to decide. Thy love and longing are not arbiters there. You have to give up and leave the fate of the whole world and Savitri's fate just to the Supreme, to God's sole guard. He alone can protect. So I think I will read to the end. Even if he seems to leave her to her lone strength, even though all falters and fails and sees an end, and the heart fails, and only are death and night, God-given, her strength can battle against doom, even on a brink where death alone seems close, and no human strength can hinder or can help. Think not to intercede with the hidden will. Intrude not twixt her spirit and its force, but leave her to her mighty self and fate. So it may happen like that. It looks as if she's completely abandoned, even if God seems to leave her to her lonely strength. even if everything seems to shake, to falter and fail, comes to an end, and the heart fails, the courage and the enthusiasm and the faith fails, and the only things that can be seen are death and night. Even then, God-given, her strength can battle against doom, even on a brink, on that edge where death alone seems close, and no human strength can hinder or can help. Sri Aurobindo knew that Mother would have to face a moment like that. And she herself has spoken about what a tremendous blow it was to her when Sri Aurobindo left his body. She never had conceived for a moment that it would happen really like that. And her whole being was shaken. But God-given, her strength enabled her to stand firm and give strength to all the people around her. The whole ashram was completely shattered, no? She held firm. She somehow was able to make clear to people that there was a sublime reason for what Sri Aurobindo had done. And some faith and illumination came to certain people. They got inspirations and they could write about perhaps what that meaning was. But here we have the feeling that Sri Aurobindo just a few days before was thinking about the Mother and what it would be like for her when he left. But he was confident that she had the strength to do what was necessary. Martin, maybe you'll read these last lines. We'll finish the canto.
He spoke and ceased and left the earthly scene. Away from the strife and suffering on our globe, he turned towards his far-off blissful home. A brilliant arrow pointing straight to heaven. The luminous body of the ethereal seal assailed the purple glory of the noon and disappeared like a receding star, vanishing into the light of the unseen. But still a cry was heard in the infinite, and still to the listening soul on mortal earth, a high and far, imperishable voice chanted the anthem of eternal love.
So these words were not written at that time in 1950. These are from an earlier time in Sri Aurobindo's writing. This is a description, beautiful poetic description of Narad leaving the earth after having done his mission. No? He had he said what he had to say, he stopped speaking, and off he went, away from the strife and suffering on our globe. He turned towards his far-off, blissful home, that heaven where he lives. And he goes up like an arrow or a rocket, a brilliant arrow pointing straight to heaven. The luminous body of the ethereal seer assailed the purple glory of the noon. It's the middle of the day, off he's going, disappeared like a receding star, a star getting further and further away, vanishing into the light of the unseen, what cannot be seen. But we are told, if the soul listened, still a cry, that wonderful voice of his. He's the singer, no? He came chanting the anthem of eternal love, and he's still singing it as he goes away. So to the listening soul on mortal earth, the soul can hear that high and far, imperishable voice. That's a voice that can't die or vanish. It's chanting the anthem of eternal love. And if we apply these lines to Sri Aurobindo, as some people have done, but off he went, then we can say that perhaps this anthem of eternal love he has left us in the form of this poem. In vain thou mourn'st that Shraddhavan must die. His death is a beginning of greater life. Death is the spirit's opportunity. A vast intention has brought two souls close, and love and death conspire towards one great end. For out of danger and pain, heaven bliss shall come. Time's unforeseen event, God's secret plan. This world was not built with random bricks of chance. A blind God is not destiny's architect. A conscious power has drawn the plan of life. There is a meaning in each curve and line. It is an architecture high and grand, by many named and nameless masons built, in which unseeing hands obey the unseen. And of its master builders, she is one. Queen, strive no more to change the secret will. Time's accidents are steps in its vast scheme. Bring not thy brief and helpless human tears across the fathomless moments of a heart that knows its single will and God's as one. It can embrace its hostile destiny. It sits apart with grief and facing death, affronting adverse fate, armed and alone. In this enormous world, standing apart, in the mightiness of her silent spirit's will, in the passion of her soul of sacrifice, her lonely strength facing the universe, affronting fate, asks not man's help nor God's. Sometimes one life is charged with earth's destiny. It cries not for succor from the time-bound powers. Alone she is equal to her mighty task. Intervene not in a strife too great for thee, a struggle too deep for mortal thought to sound, its question to this nature's rigid bounds, when the soul fronts, nude of garbs, the infinite. Its too vast theme of a lonely mortal will pacing the silence of eternity. As a star, uncompanioned, moves in heaven, unastonished by the immensities of space, travelling infinity by its own light. The great are strongest when they stand alone. A God-given might of being is their force, a ray from self-solitude of light, the guide. The soul that can live alone with itself meets God. Its lonely universe is their rendezvous. A day may come when she must stand unhelped on a dangerous brink of the world's doom and hers, carrying the world's future on her lonely breast, carrying the human hope in a heart left sole to conquer or fail on a last desperate verge, alone with death and close to extinction's edge. Her single greatness in that last dire scene must cross alone a perilous bridge in time and reach an apex of world destiny where all is won or all is lost for man. In that tremendous silence, lone and lost, of a deciding hour in the world's fate, in her soul's climbing beyond mortal time, when she stands soul with death or soul with God, apart upon a silent, desperate brink, alone with herself and death and destiny, as on some verge between time and timelessness, when being must end or life rebuild its base. Alone she must conquer, or alone must fall. No human aid can reach her in that hour. No armored God stands shining at her side. Cry not to heaven, for she alone can save. For this the silent force came missioned down. In her the conscious will took human shape. She only can save herself and save the world. O Queen, stand back from that stupendous scene. Come not between her and her hour of fate. Her hour must come, and none can intervene. Think not to turn her from her heaven-sent task. Strive not to save her from her own high will. Thou hast no place in that tremendous strife. Thy love and longing are not arbiters there. Leave the world's fate and her to God's sole guard. Even if he seems to leave her to her lone strength, even though all falters and falls and sees an end, and the heart fails, and only are death and night, God-given, her strength can battle against doom, even on a brink where death alone seems close, and no human strength can hinder or can help. Think not to intercede with the hidden will. Intrude not twixt her spirit and its force, but leave her to her mighty self and fate. He spoke and ceased and left the earthly scene. Away from the strife and suffering on our globe, he turned towards his far-off blissful home. A brilliant arrow pointing straight to heaven, the luminous body of the ethereal seer assailed the purple glory of the noon, and disappeared like a receding star, vanishing into the light of the unseen. But still a cry was heard in the infinite, and still to the listening soul on mortal earth, a high and far imperishable voice chanted the anthem of eternal love.